Everybody knows that in the corporate world, how you communicate translates into your reputation, credibility, and image is very important. Today, I'm gonna give you some alternatives for you to start changing that image, because image is not something you change overnight. It is something you work on, but the best thing is for you to show improvement. People will notice when you change the way you speak, even if you are changing just a few structures and a few words. And that shows a lot about the kind of professional you are. Today, I'm gonna give you some alternatives on how to sound more credible in meetings, how to put forward your ideas in a more assertive manner, and showing a more sophisticated manner of communication. So, replacing simple structures that you keep repeating, meeting in and meeting out, and also becoming a little more objective and clear when you convey your message is essential for your credibility. And when you boost your credibility, you are going to boost your confidence. And confidence is built brick by brick. And this is what I'm going to help you with. I'm going to provide you some alternatives that you can adopt little by little, and you will see, and you can tell me in your comments later if that helped build your confidence in meetings. Get a notepad. It might be interesting for you to take notes of the expressions. If necessary, just pause the video, okay? Because if you keep those tips and alternatives by your side on your screen during a meeting, I think you'll be able to start using them and adopting them naturally, little by little. So that has worked marvelously with the students of mine, and this is how I studied English decades ago, and I continue studying. You adopt one by one by repeating, and that's how you start building. And this is what we need. We build to elevate. So let's start elevating. Okay. So first one, instead of saying, I think that, or here's what I think, I feel that, you can simply say, I'd like to lay out my reasoning. So it is more sophisticated, and you are going to show the person that you are going to explain your process, how you got that idea. Okay, so instead of saying, this is just an idea, but, in my opinion, I think, no, just say, give the idea, and then say, this could help us save time and effort in the long run. Or this could help with the team engagement. This could help with is a great alternative of just focusing on I think, in my opinion. Sounds more professional. The next one, instead of saying I don't agree with that, well, it is not wrong to say, I don't agree with that. And sometimes, if the occasion requires, we might even want to say that to be a little, to stand up for our ideas, let's say. But as a first option, when it's the first time, I wouldn't use that. First, you use the negative, I don't agree. It's too aggressive. So we could say, let me push back just a little on that. That's a very nice one. Let me push back just a little on that. That means you don't agree with the person. But you're not using the negative. Next, instead of saying, why don't we do it my way instead? Why don't we do it the way I suggested? you can say, what if we tried this instead? You remove yourself from the sentence, right? Instead of saying my suggestion, you say, what if we tried this instead? Next, instead of saying this part isn't right, you are pointing a mistake, right? Pointing out a mistake. We might want to revisit this section to make sure it's aligned. So the word revisit is very sophisticated, and it indicates that there is something that might not be correct. But you see that it sounds less aggressive, especially in a meeting where there are other people. So again, take notes of this one. This one is going to improve your reputation, I guarantee. So next, instead of saying, this isn't going to work, it's a temptation. Sometimes we are in a meeting and we kind of react and we say whatever we are thinking. This is not going to work. No, don't say that. Again, try to avoid negatives. Instead, you could say, I'm a bit concerned about how this might scale. So it is a construction in which you have words like modal verbs like might, which conveys 50%, that softens the idea that no, this is wrong, and the word scale, which is used in a very smart way here. So again, I'm a bit concerned about how this might scale. Next, instead of saying that's wrong or that's inaccurate, you could say that's a fair point. At the same time, so we use at the same time to replace the word but, you see, because people are kind of expecting you to say that's a fair point, but no, you say that's a fair point at the same time, and then you continue the sentence. An example, that's a fair point. At the same time, I'd like to share a bit of context behind that decision. Next, instead of saying, that's not what I meant, when you are misunderstood by somebody in a meeting, right? Instead, say, I understand how it might come across that way. What I was aiming for was. So acknowledge that you might have chosen the words that people perceived, that people misunderstood. And acknowledge that first. That's kind. So you see that it is possible for you to disagree, to put your ideas forward in a professional and elegant manner. That way, and this is my personal take, instead of reacting and being confrontational, it would be much better for you to show that you have a professional stand and you elevate your communication. It is more difficult for people to disagree or dislike you for being professional. So I think that it never hurts to use something more elegant, polite, and focusing on the positive. By saying sentences like, in my opinion, that's just me, but I think you might be perceived as defensive. And therefore, you lose credibility that is very important in corporate world. Try to keep things very objective. Do not personify don't bring the opinions to yourself, but to the project or object or whatever you are discussing, the topic, not yourself. That's very important. And that's what professional people do. They focus on the topic at hand and not how you feel. To recap, what are the expressions you can use in order to elevate and boost your credibility in meetings? Again, I'd like to lay out my reasoning. This could help us save time and effort in the long run. Let me push back just a little on that. What if we tried this instead? We might want to revisit this section to make sure it's aligned. I'm a bit concerned about how this might scale. That's a fair point. At the same time, I understand how it might come across that way. What I was aiming for was. If you like this video, click that button, subscribe for more content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.